Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Williams. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Williams. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Williams, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. You know what? And you know why? Because that is what we do. Anyhow, what is the show about today? Today, it's going to be about Medicare for all, of course. When I stayed out there in Philadelphia at Netroots Nation, what happened is we went ahead and got some interviews in with some great folk. Folk who understand what's going on in the world, folks who understood, all that we're doing. And you know what? It turned out pretty darn well. And we got Dr. Sriram. I can never say his name correctly. Dr. Sriram, who is going to be with us to discuss Medicare for all in a manner that everybody can understand. But before we get into the program, let's go over a few kind of interesting kind of things, right? Are you ready to own Greenland? Is America really ready to own Greenland? Is that really what we want to do? I don't know. And everybody today, that was the big story. You know this? I am talking about it, and let me tell you why I'm talking about it right now. I'm talking about it right now because it is silly. And not only that it's silly, it is yet something else that Donald Trump has pulled, and the mainstream media has fallen for it again. So therefore, because they're talking about it, and because one of the things that I talk to you about is to tell you, please remember why independent media is so darn necessary. Because it doesn't take much for Donald Trump and the plutocracy to pull the strings of the mainstream media. Greenland. And here I'm picking up Greenland myself, but for a different reason. I'm picking up Greenland. I'm talking about Greenland now, so that I can later on not have to pick up every little thing the mainstream media is doing. I don't want to have to talk about this all of the times, because folks, if I want you to know that you have a place to come. I want to know that you can go to mainstream, that you can go to independent media, not only Politics Done Right. You can go to the Majority Report. You can go to TYT. You can go to the Ring of Fire. There are a lot of places for you to go. If you want to get information that's not cycle-based on what the president is telling people to keep them off of what the story is. You want to know the state of our economy? The state of our economy is screwed. We have more debt right now. More people are in debt right now than just before the Great Recession. Right? The big stock market plunges that we saw, is it a precursor to another big crash? Well, I have a friend that all he does is speculate on the stock market, and he's scared, you know what? I've always known the stock market to be the only form of the real form of legalized gambling that we have here. Thugs in a suit, they trade stocks, and somehow there's something different about trading stocks. The EBITDA, and the rate, the earning ratios, and all that kind of stuff. As if that really, look. The total value of a company is what it has in assets and what it can be sold for, what somebody is willing to pay for it, right? And when you're talking about a company that is not up for sale and you have it broken down into stocks, and then the stock has different pricing based on how many people are trading it, and that's gambling. The only time it's not gambling is when it's being liquidated. So I mean, let's realize these things, right? When it's done by the thugs in a suit, it's not a crime. But when it is done by others, it is a crime. Thugs in a suit got all of Appalachia and other places hooked. Hooked. Let's not forget that, okay? Appalachia is hooked on drugs. They're dope heads. And they're dope heads because pushers made sure that they had a whole lot of drugs. If you remember, I had El Señor and Master Antonio, not Master Antonio, but Papa Antonio here on the show last week. And Papa Antonio, I asked Papa Antonio a specific question. I said, hey, is there really any difference between the pharmaceutical companies and drug dealers? And he said, ha 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 ha, no. But you know, thugs in a suit. You know, the drug dealer in the corner, he only kills a few if they get a bad hit from him. The pharmaceutical companies kill millions, well, hundreds of thousands, 50-something, 60-something thousand a year. But you see, we have been conditioned, and the reason I'm bringing that up before I get into the show itself is the reason I'm bringing these things up is that you have to understand that criminality is not an absolute statement, right? In other words, there are people that are rotting in jail right now. They're in jail for, likely forever. And their only sin, the only sin they committed was to have committed the wrong crime at the right time. Hear me again. They committed the wrong crime at the right time. And that's important to understand, okay? Because, folks, there are a lot of people in jail for pushing marijuana, rotting in jail for pushing marijuana. And I bet none of those thugs in the suit, the pharmaceutical companies executives, I bet none of them are going to jail over what's going on here. So please, let's be careful when we look at criminality, not having to do with one person physically strangling a person or physically, what's the word that I want to say? Not physically strangling a person or gunning a person or knifing a person. That is what criminality really is, right? That's how we see it. But what we've done is we've locked up a whole lot of people for doing things that industry does. Again, if the plutocracy does it, it's okay. If the people that are getting wealthy off of it does it, it's okay. Do it, it's okay. But when the average person does it, it's okay until. It's okay until. So let's not fall for the crap. Going back to how I started the program again. Donald Trump, let me ask you this. I really want you to answer this. If you doubt when I talk about how this guy manipulates the media. Why did Greenland come up at all? He constantly have to think of the most outlandish things that are completely disassociated with what we're talking about, completely disassociated with reality. We talk about that, we go ahead and we get the media involved, and all the stories about, or in-depth stories about the state of our economy, the state of our infrastructure, all these things get off the main page. That's how it works. So my brothers and sisters, what I try to tell you here is we cannot continue to fall for this. We cannot continue to fall for this every single time, which is what we do. We continue to fall for it, and he is going to use it every time as long as the media continues to do it, and the media will. And the reason why the media will is, come on, if you are on your Facebook page and you see a story that says Donald Trump wants to buy the largest island on the planet, well, yes, it's the largest island, Greenland, and he wants to buy Greenland, and And then we get a whole new section about why is it that he wants to grab Greenland. And then we get the other set of the intelligentsia that comes in and says, oh, the Inuit live on that land. And here we are talking about another colonial power trying. And so we get off on a tangent on all these things. And I'm getting to Medicare for All, but I just want you to absorb, because a lot of times when I tell folks the media is being played or are being played, a lot of you come back and say, well, you know, you get most of your information from the mainstream media after all. No, I get a lot of information from the print media, get a lot of information from other independent media folks. I mean, every so often, I mean, there's so many of us out there, every so often, some of us, you know, even I've done it before, break news, right? But most of the times you don't break news. Most of the times you amplify news. That's what independent bloggers, journalists, hosts, radio, that's what we do. We amplify a lot of the news. Sometimes we highlight things that we think are not covered appropriately. That is what we do. Every now and then we break something. Like in my life, I've probably broken 5 stories, you know, but I mean, it happened, you know. The rest is interpretation and making sure that the stories that need to be magnified and acted upon and given context, that is what we do. Anyhow, title of the show today is, let me go to the title of the show. The title of the show today is Dr. America discusses Medicare for All in a manner for all to understand. Regular PDR guest, PDR being Politics Done Right guest, Dr. America Sanjeev K. Suram met me at Netroots Nation Netroots Nation 2019 in Philadelphia a few weeks ago to discuss the state of Medicare for All and more. This is a guy who was on stage with Bernie Sanders and Pramila Jayapal when they came out with the Medicare for All, the new Medicare for All, etc. So he is intimately aware of what's going on, and he's working with Social Security Works and other folks to really go out there and put the message out there, because again, we have the thugs in a suit that are starting to misinform our people again, and what we have to do is make sure that these guys are not effective. So what I want to do is, let me continue with the program. Dr. America Sanjeev K. Suram did not mince his words as we discussed Medicare for All at Netroots Nation 2019. Dr. America knows Medicare for All better than most. He was on the podium with Bernie Sanders and Pramila Jayapal for the release of the new bill. He understands that the thugs in a suit, or the thugs in suits, will be fighting ever so unethically to lie to and mislead Americans against their best interests to profit from their illnesses. I want you to remember something about, I need you to remember something about insurance companies. They profit by denying you service. And that's why insurance companies should never be for profit. They maximize profit only by denying you service, by trying to tell you no as much as possible, holding you out as much as possible so you can do what? Die. If you die, you become it's a lot easier to deal with you. By now, those of us attempting to enlighten Americans about Medicare for All understand the power of the forces we are up against. When the corporatocracy can have several Democrats sounding like right-wing Republicans in their objection to Medicare for All, it is clear that they are not only bought, but suffer from cowardice manifested as an immoral act. It is imperative that they pay for that at the most opportune time. In other words, what I'm saying there is, yeah, a lot of Democratic Congress people have picked up the wordiology of the right wing in describing Medicare for All. They are on the take. Every single one of them that do not support Medicare for All, and I will say this absolutely, is on the take or wants to be on the take. There are many of these guys that are running that they know they don't stand a chance of winning. They know they don't stand a chance. And their sole purpose there is to malign Medicare for All. If you listen to Bennett doesn't stand a chance in hell, heaven, or anywhere to win. But if you hear him speak about Medicare for all, I mean, there's no distinction between what he says. The same applies to Biden. There is no distinction between what they say and the right. None. So therefore, note what I said. At the opportune time, we can take care of those guys. Right now, it's not the opportune time. Right now, we just play ball. But we continue to push Medicare for all. Anyhow, so it is imperative that they pay for that at the most opportune time. Later on, I want to talk about an article from the from Daily Kos. But what we'll do right now is we'll go ahead and play Sanjeev's piece where we had that pretty solid interview, and then we'll move on from that to the other. So here we go. Welcome back to Politics Done Right. You know, Politics Done Right made a promise. We were going to be talking Medicare for all ad nauseum, and the reason why is because there are those opposers out there who are opposing it for reasons other than your health,
Right.
for reasons other than what is best for you.
Yep.
So today I'm with Dr. America. And by the way, Dr. America was that guy that you saw on stage with Bernie Sanders and I think with Jayapal as well for the Medicare for All bill. His name is Sanjeev K. Sriram. He's a medical doctor. He knows what he's talking about. And I think today we are going to have a great talk. Please listen. Please share. This is existential. Your life depends on it. Dr. Sriram.
Good to be back.
I mean, it's great having you. It's great. It's been wonderful watching your tweets.
Oh, thank you.
Okay,
Thank
because
you.
they are important. They were informative. There are times that I got it and I said, oh, I guess I need to go do that now. So thank you for what you're doing for the
thank you.
movement.
Thank you.
Please explain to us again. And I look, what we've learned is that repetition is important.
Yeah.
So what I'd like you to do, in short, is to first tell our audience what is Medicare for All.
Okay. So Medicare for All is a new way of paying for healthcare. It does not change what your doctor will be doing for you when you have an illness or when you want a checkup or when you need help. The healthcare that you're getting is going to stay the same because that's science, it's medicine. It's, we go to school, we have training, we are going to follow those ethics and practice that science. What is going to change with Medicare for All is how we pay for the services and what we prioritize in our financing of healthcare. So right now when you go to the doctor, your doctor's office has a ton of fragmentation with their pay. You've got doctors who have to, contract with insurance companies, with Medicaid, with Medicare. They have to, figure out whether they're going to take cash payments from patients who are uninsured. And then every year, the insurance industry will change contracts. And the doctors will kind of have to look at those contracts again to decide, you know what, I can't work with this insurance company anymore. And that's how actually a lot of Americans end up losing the doctor that they really like.
Right.
It's not because of anything that the ACA did. It has nothing to do with what any politician did. It's that the insurance company keeps messing around with their relationships and contracts with doctors. And so doctors slip in and out of network. And so that's what is messing up a lot of what patients experience at the doctor's office. So what Medicare for All does is that it tells the doctors, focus on taking care of patients, not paperwork. Mm-hmm. We're going to pay you properly, on time, for the work that you do. You are not going to be wasting time haggling with the insurance industry to get paid for work that you have already done.
Right.
That's actually something that I keep repeating to my medical colleagues is that, for those who have hesitations about joining the Medicare for All movement, I tell them the average American doctor is losing 3 weeks of every year to fighting with insurance companies to get paid for work that they have already done.
Right.
That is 3 weeks that no patient is getting healthier. No doctor is making money off of that. The only person getting richer during those 3 weeks
The insurance executives.
is the insurance executives. It has nothing to do with
healthcare.
public health or making patients' lives better. And so that is what we have the opportunity to dismantle. And what physicians want to do with those 3 weeks, that's up to them. I'm not going to tell them what to do.
Right.
If they want to see more patients, great. If they want to like do some, take some time to do some special skills training and education, because there's always something new in science and medicine.
Do it.
Do it. If they want to spend more time with their family and avoid burnout, do that. But there are so many different things that you can be doing as a doctor with 3 weeks that is better than fighting with the insurance company. And so that's what's in it for physicians when it comes to being in Medicare for All. For patients, right now, when a patient in America wants to figure out healthcare, like how am I going to go to the doctor?
Right.
They have to clear so many hurdles, right? Well, what do you make? Well, how much money do you earn? Where do you live? Because depending on what state you're in, your state may have expanded Medicaid or not expanded Medicaid.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, your insurance decides what networks they're going to work with, city by city, state by state. Oftentimes they're going to ask, "Are you a citizen? Who do you look? What do you look like?" I mean, a lot of these questions, instead of just answering the person's question of, "Here's the address for your local doctor's office. Now let's help you figure out a way to get there."
Exactly.
That's what Medicare for All is going to be for us when we actually build this thing.
No, and there's no reason for that. I mean, they like to promote the word competition. The reason we want several insurance companies is we want competition. I think that's the worst argument, in that they're assuming that paying a bill is a product.
Right.
How do we dispel that notion that paying a bill isn't the product?
Right. I mean, and also let's also dispel the notion of competition, right? Because a lot of these insurance companies have, when I started medical school, there was maybe the top 12 insurance companies. That became the top 10, then the top 8, and now we're down to 5 insurance companies because of mergers. Mm-hmm. These guys, these are huge corporations. They care about their dividends. They care about their shareholders. And they care about merging and increasing market power for profits. Nowhere in any of that does patients or healthcare actually fit into their priorities.
Again, the reality is, and please tell me, there's not, insurance companies, the only service that they provide really is to manage risk. And if you have one risk pool, there's no risk to manage, right?
Right. So what they're really also trying to do is that the way that an insurance company makes money is by denying you care. Right. Because they every month that you pay premiums, they want to hold on to every single one of those dollars. Right. And the moment you go to the doctor's office, now the insurance company has to pay the doctor's office. Right. So the more that they're able to deny,
the more they make.
That's
their method.
And so that, again, it has nothing to do with optimizing your health.
Right.
And left to these insurance companies, if the ACA is gone, and if everything that happened in the Fifth Court of Appeals and everything like that, they don't mind going back to the time where they can use your own body to discriminate against you. Right. Saying that, you have cancer now, and that's really expensive.
Right.
But when you first applied for that insurance policy, you didn't tell us that you had acne when you were a teenager.
Right.
You were dishonest.
Right.
Acne is a pre-existing condition, and you failed to report that.
Right.
We're rescinding your entire policy, and now we don't have to pay for anything.
Anything whatsoever.
Now, that's what they used to do before the ACA. The ACA outlawed that. But the fact that was ever, a business model, the fact that was ever a protocol or practice, tells you that that patients have never been a priority in healthcare for them.
Now, we are deep into the election cycle.
Yeah.
It seems like Medicare for All, the buzzwords on.
Yeah.
Does it really mean everything to every single candidate?
That's a good question, and what I'm looking for are the journalists who have taken the time to understand what the bill is.
Right.
Because when I saw that question asked in both debate nights about, do you support abolishing private insurance?
Right.
I felt that it was a very misguided question. Because that isn't the goal of Medicare for All.
Right.
The goal of Medicare for All is to make healthcare a basic human right.
Exactly.
And what we're abolishing are the false choices that millions of patients and families make.
Exactly.
There are millions of patients and families right now,
Right.
and I'm talking about the people with insurance. Over
Right.
half of us who have employer-sponsored insurance
Right.
have family members who are avoiding going to the doctor because they don't want to pay for the cost.
Right.
Isn't that the whole point of having insurance? Is
I
that
mean, and you wonder why it is that the message doesn't go over, and we know why. We get mixed messages
Yeah.
from corporate, the Partnership for
America's healthcare future?
okay,
Yeah.
they have psychologically well-designed ads like the Lucy, remember the
Yeah, it's
the Lucy and Mary or Louise.
yeah,
The
yeah,
old
yeah,
Louise
yeah.
commercials.
Yeah.
I try to tell them, oh, you're going to lose your coverage. You're
Right.
going to lose this.
Right.
Now, what I really think we need is a lot of doctors in their white coats coming out
Mm-hmm.
of the weeds and saying we would be much more efficient without
Right.
these healthcare
Right.
the health insurance industry.
Right. I mean, it's 3 weeks of the year that we would be spending with our patients, that we would be becoming better at what we do.
Right. I think I asked you this question before, but why is it that more doctors we don't find supporting the
So, I mean,
Medical
doctors are as vulnerable to the messaging of the industry as
Right.
anybody else, right?
Right.
I mean, like,
Right.
doctors like to kid themselves that, oh, pharma doesn't, have an effect on, like, what I
Right.
prescribe, and the insurance industry doesn't have a grip on me. But then you turn around and look at, like, what are the top 10 most prescribed drugs in America?
It's the
the
one-
top 10 that are most marketed, right?
Sure.
So it's sort of like, I mean,
Correlation.
right? I mean, like, physicians are no different, or like they're not that much smarter than
Right,
the average
right.
American when it comes to handling how industry, deals with propaganda and all of that.
Right.
And so, as physicians, we have to really be honest with ourselves about those 3 weeks that we lose every
Mm-hmm.
year. That's money that is lost, $83,000 per physician practice.
Right, right.
So whenever people say that, oh, like, I can't survive on Medicare rates, what I tell them is that, like, right now the insurance industry has tricked you into thinking that they are paying you more.
Right.
But the moment you have to pick up the phone to haggle with them over getting paid, you're losing money.
Right.
And so your pay is being lost, and your time and effort is being lost on paperwork when it should be with patients.
Right.
Isn't that why we all went to medical school?
Yes, yeah.
And so these are the conversations that we have to be having as physicians. We have to be, like, reconnecting with what is it that made us want to do this work in the first place. And honestly, the future of the country really does depend on us creating a more sustainable healthcare system.
Exactly.
Because, I'm sure that that the majority of this country will be minority.
Yes, and pretty darn soon, in the next 30 years or so.
It's actually much sooner than that. As a pediatrician, I can tell you that our child population, so babies under
Right.
age 1, became majority minority in 2011. That was the first year that
Really?
babies under age 1 became majority minority.
Wow.
Well, since the arrival of imperialism,
Right,
but
right,
like
right.
I mean, but
Yes.
but then, like, in the 2014-2015 school year was the first school year in public schools where minority students outnumbered white students.
I didn't know that.
Next year, 2020, is the first year that everybody under the age of 18 will come from a minority community.
Wow.
So we are rapidly becoming a majority-minority country. It's
No
not
wo-
some distant milestone.
No
It's
wonder.
happening now.
No wonder Trump is freaking out.
Oh, of course, right? But the thing is that a lot of these kids, like, they are also dealing, like, not only are they dealing with racial inequality, they're dealing with income inequality.
Right.
The two are, like, so tightly
And
linked.
With that inequality also comes health inequality.
Right, because they can't afford any of what the
Exactly.
insurance company is charging them.
Exactly.
I have patients where they are graduating out of my practice.
Right.
I see people who are, like,
18,
about,
right?
well, actually till mid-college.
Okay.
Okay. And so they're in the middle of college, or looking at, like, their first job coming out.
Right.
And I have had patients say that I can't take a job in a southern state, even though it would be a great opportunity, because I need Medicaid coverage. And so they're going to go for, they're cutting themselves out of a potential really great job opportunity because they have to look after their health.
And many times these are the people who vote for those guys.
And the scary thing of it is that, if we don't tell the truth to ourselves,
Right.
this is going to become a healthcare system that really reflects apartheid.
Exactly.
Where if you are white and wealthy, you get to be healthy. And if you are not, then
You're not.
you are not just poor, but you are sick and poor.
Right. Well, let me ask you, what do you think about Jayapal's bill, Representative Jayapal's
I'm
bill?
a strong supporter of Congresswoman Jayapal's bill.
And how do you think it compared to what was formerly HR 676, which is now something else?
So I think that actually it added a lot of meat to those bones.
So you think what it is it actually defined these different things as far as it's concerned?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
In fact, I would
Excellent.
say that the ACA,
Yeah.
I mean, like where the ACA was at this point 10
Right.
years ago,
Right.
and where Medicare for All is now. Like Medicare for All in HR 1384, Congresswoman Jayapal's bill, it is a far more robust bill
Excellent.
than what the ACA was like at this point in time 10 years ago.
It's interesting because they were concerned that because a lot of it was written sort of out of sight, that it would have been problematic, but it looks like it turned out much better than people thought it was going to be.
You know, the whole thing about it being written out of sight, I felt that they were inviting people to come and meet with them so that they could hear them honestly.
Right, okay.
And so they, you know, and the thing is, like, a lot of people who are vulnerable
right.
are, they can speak their truth more freely if they're not, if they are free of the worry of, am I going to get blasted in public
Right,
for speaking about the truth of my vulnerability.
Right.
And I feel like the bill right now, it reflects a lot of listening that has happened from one community after another after another. Like the disability community did a powerful job of making sure that there are provisions that allow our brothers and sisters with disabilities to get services at home in their communities and not be institutionalized. And that's in the Medicare for All bill.
Did I hear that we're one vote away?
So we are
Democratic vote away?
We are one Democratic vote away from having half of all the Democrats in the House co-sponsoring Medicare
And
for
when
All.
that occurs,
And when that occurs, it'll be a lot harder for the House leadership to deny hearings, to eventually bring this bill to the floor of the House for a vote. Because what I love telling people is that we want to move the Medicare for All curious to Medicare for All committed.
exactly. I had two Medicare for Guys from the Nurses Union come and talk about that. Now, in closing, give me a direction.
Yeah, so August recess, okay? So Congress takes a recess in August,
Right.
and they go back home to their districts and states where they have town hall meetings,
Right.
and they meet with their constituents. It is a great time to talk to them about Medicare for All. If your representative is already a supporter, great. But remind them that this is a racial justice issue.
Right.
59% of America's uninsured are minorities. And so we need Medicare for All as a racial justice initiative just as much as
Right.
we need it for health,
social justice, health justice. yeah.
Right.
Right.
And so, you know, it builds a sense of urgency in a supporter to to help them reaffirm their allegiance to Medicare for All. For those who are, like I was saying before, curious but not
Right.
yet committed, it's a great time to meet with them and talk about, well,
Right.
what do the current uninsured look like in your community? Bring those stories, talk about that vulnerability, that pain, and what Medicare for All can do. And for those who are opposed, let them know that, 2020 is an election year.
Right.
Time is ticking.
And that we'll take care of them then.
That's right.
Dr. Suram, did I say that right?
That's right. That's right.
Thank you so kindly, Dr. America, for being with us.
Absolutely.
And,
Thank you.
and by next year, we hope to meet where we're going to be even more positive. On
Oh,
Medicare
yeah.
for All.
Yeah, then we're going to be talking about how we're going to fight the Senate to get this thing passed there.
Exactly. Thank you so kindly for being with me.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, I hope you enjoyed that. As it turns out, the Senate is. I think the Senate is now in play. I think we're going to pick up Colorado. I think we're going to pick up New Hampshire. I think we're going to do quite well. I don't see us losing any Senate seats. So I think the Senate just may be ours. When I say ours, I mean belonging to Democrats and somewhat progressives. So I think we're going to be okay in that regards. Okay, let me see if I have any messages to go through. First of all, Kathleen Moraine Morgan, welcome aboard from sunny Situate, Massachusetts. Welcome aboard. Yeah, I don't know who's going to pay for Greenland, Kathleen. I haven't the foggiest idea where he's going to get the money to pay for Greenland. But the only thing about it is, I guess you can have an even swap. But how can you or how can you buy something that doesn't? Well, who's he going to pay for it? You know what? It's crazy. Anyhow, Lee Grant says, keep an eye out on Portland tomorrow. I hope it's peaceful. Well, Lee, that's why I always talk about having the smartest listeners, because I didn't know something was happening in Portland. For some reason, I don't know why I don't know, but I'll find out. And I hope you're right that it's all, or rather, I hope your wish comes true that it's all peaceful. Let's see who else here. Well, welcome aboard Joe Montemayor, Michael Dean Newton, Elaine Kimsey, Sam Lafferty. Who else is here? Welcome aboard the show. Let me see, YouTube. Welcome aboard all of you out there on YouTube. I don't have any scroll down on you right now. Anyhow, so YouTube, if you want me to call your name or call you out, just go ahead and drop a line, chime in, and I'll be more than happy to do so, to give you a shout out and so forth. Folks, if you want a bumper sticker, also just send me an address to send the bumper sticker to, and I'll send you a, you know what it is, right? A Politics Done Right bumper sticker. So if you want a bumper sticker, email me your address at info@politicsdoneright.com, and I'll send you a bumper sticker so that you can, display it on your car and get us more viewership. Make sure that people are listening. If you're also listening, I'd like to ask you guys, please remember, share these shows. This is how people are going to find out about us. This is how people are going to understand that. Again, remember, as I said in the video there, we have the ability to say things that the mainstream media cannot say. And the reason the mainstream media cannot say it is because they're owned by the plutocracy. So go ahead and do that for me. Okay, second story of the day, right? A court just had to tell Trump admin that yes, detained migrant kids do need toothbrushes and soap. I've been watching this story and I have neglected to mention it, but I just cannot understand. Let me read what one of the Daily Kos reporters had to say. She's very good with this issue. We're talking about, actually this one was written by Gabe Ortiz, who I see all the time at Netroots. And he said, remember when government attorney Sarah Fabian got famous for all the wrong reasons thanks to a viral video of her arguing in court that detained migrant kids don't really need bare necessities such as toothbrush? That miserable argument thankfully got rejected following a unanimous decision from the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit ruling that, yes, the kids actually do require soap and sleeping mats. The inhumanity of these people. The inhumanity of these people. Assuming that children eat enough edible food, drink clean water, are housed in hygienic facilities with sanitary bathrooms, have soap and toothpaste, and are not sleep deprived or without doubt essential to children's safety, wrote Judge Marsha Bernson. It's a major victory for children in federal immigration custody, said Elora Mukherjee, an attorney who has the right to inspect immigration detention facilities as part of the Flores Agreement. A team of lawyers who inspected a border patrol facility near El Paso, Texas in June found dozens of sick kids lacking access to water and food. Some jail children had been forced to take care of other jail children. 3 girls, and they were trying to watch over a 2-year-old boy who had wet his pants and no diaper and was wearing a mucus-smeared shirt when the legal team encountered him. In my 22 years of doing visits with children in detention, said Holly Cooper of the University of California, Davis Immigration Law Clinic, I have never heard of this level of inhumanity. Folks, the level of inhumanity is outstanding. If you Zerlina Maxwell, and I repeat this from what she had to say yesterday. I want to say this as nice as I can. But if you knew me, or rather, let's not put me here. If you knew someone who was abusing kids, and that person decided to run for the school board, I am positive that most of you, irrespective of your nationality, irrespective of your ideology, irrespective of your party, would not vote that person in. I'm almost willing to bet a finger on it. Therefore, my question to you is, we know now the inhumanity of the Trump administration, not only with the way they treat the kids in detention, not only the way that they treat the adults in detention, not only in the way they treat people in general, not only in the way they treat people that are not on their team. Look at how he treated that guy last night who he thought was a protester against him, but the guy was really protesting for him. He fat shamed the guy. He told them to throw him out of the room. That is your president. That is the guy that is at 44% or so right now in approval. I have a question to you people that make up that 44%. How? Call me 646-716-5812. 646-716-5812. This is a call-in show. I'd love to hear from you. I want somebody to look, forget about talking about the alternative, etc. How can another human being support, vote for President Trump, knowing intrinsically, you know it within your bones, that this guy has no feelings, this guy has no empathy, this guy has no soul? And guys, I love everybody. I even love the president. But what he is doing, people, look, I would like somebody, call me anonymously or whatever, that's a strong Trump supporter. Please tell America, please tell the folks that are listening here, tell me what is it inside of you that feels it's okay to do that? If you know somebody is going to shoot me, are you going to support them anyway? If you know somebody is going to maim your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, are you going to support them? Yes, I don't care how tribal you get. When things get to this point, you have to ask yourself about your own humanity. You have to ask yourself about who you are. You have to ask yourself if at this time, even if you can't pull the trigger for somebody else because you are just, that it physically makes you sick to vote for a Democrat, it physically makes you sick to vote for a progressive. I don't know why it would, because we love you. Well, I'm talking about progressives now specifically, and we support things that are going to make your life better. But how can you possibly support this guy? Masticator says, if you think no toothbrushes is inhumanity, then you are stupid or a leftist radical. Okay, we have kids that have crossed over into Mexico. Their teeth are dirty, they're fed bad food. These things go into folks' gums and everything else. It is a time bomb. It won't kill everybody, but for that one kid under stress whose immune system is not functioning optimally, being that dirty for that long, after having been in a society where cleanliness on the teeth was the norm. It is inhumane because you could cause potentially an illness that either causes their death, irreversibility in certain illnesses. So yes, sir, it's not stupid. It is not leftist masticator. It is not. And that is what I'm trying to get out to you guys. How can you, masticator? Imagine that the flooding in America got to the point. Let's assume that you lived in Texas on near the border. And the flooding got to a point where the only place you could go was to run south. And that could happen anytime, you know. We could have such a natural disaster in America that this northern migration that we are concerned about could become a southern migration. You never know. And that's the thing about evil. When you do evil, right? When you do evil, you never know when it could be you that needs the help. So masticator, brother masticator, or I don't know if masticator is a woman or a man, but just given the graphics of your language, I kind of have a hunch you're a man. That toothbrush, again, you called me stupid, and you also called me radical. No, I'm just humane. All right, 609, come on in, 609, you're on.
Yeah, Egberto.
Yes, sir.
Regarding the kids down at the border in the detention centers.
Yes.
I want you, it's horrible conditions down there. I get that whole thing. But tell me why all your favorite people in the Congress voted against sending funds to the detention centers then.
That is not what they did at all. Again, that's what Fox News says that they did. That's not what they did at all. What they did is let me tell you what they did. What they did is they didn't vote for a bill that the president was attempting to use to tag that on. Period. Okay, in other words, he was attempting to get all these other things tagged on to it, and they said, how can we do that? We cannot do that. It is your responsibility to take care of those kids. But you know what? We don't even have to use this extra money to take care of the kids. After all, the kids, each of the companies that are taking care of those kids are billing the federal government north of $700 per person per day. It's the biggest ripoff that we have, my dear brother. And what we should be talking about is that they don't need another cent to be humane. They don't need another cent to get a toothbrush there. They don't need another cent to give food. But that is the issue with inhumanity and profitability. Go ahead, sir.
I resent the fact that you're trying to portray our border agents and the people down there trying to do the best they can as inhumane.
Let me at this point, my brother Paul, this is Paul, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Paul.
I just want to make one quick
wait, hold on. Let me finish here. I made you talk, my dear brother. Listen. At this point, I don't care. There's this stuff that we've learned in this country from the right. You can't talk about the police officers, yet many of them are criminals. We can't talk about soldiers, yet many of them are criminals. No. Yes, I'm breaking that mold. For those border officers they are enjoying the harm. They are enjoying the inhumanity to put on those brown kids. I've seen it with my eyes. Let me tell you better. On NPR this morning, it was great. A guy comes on and he says, I'm not leaving the job. I'm staying on to fight it. Because there was a humane border agent. There was a humane border agent talking to people who are suffering based on the policies that we have implemented in Central America, South America, and the Caribbean. So, sir, the reality is the following. The reality is the following. I don't care if one resents me calling those thugs that are embracing the treatment of those kids the way they are. I mean, let me tell you better. If you were humane, they would all walk out there in protest and say, even as with their government job, we do not treat other human beings like this. Go ahead, sir.
For you to say, this is what bothers me about you and people on the left.
Yes, sir.
You say many police officers, many soldiers are
Yes.
doing these things.
Yes.
It's probably 1/10 of 1% that do something wrong. There are millions of police officers out there and border agents doing the best they can with what they have. And
Sir?
it's probably 1/10 of 1% that's abusive to anybody.
I love the police.
And just like
No.
just like
I
people
want to
in
correct you.
9/11 Wait, let me finish. You went on for about a minute and a half.
Okay, go ahead.
Let
Go
me
ahead.
just
You're
finish
right.
my point.
Actually, you are right. I did ramble for a while. Go ahead.
Yeah. When 9/11 happened, the people on the left begged everybody, don't paint the Muslim community with a wide brush. And that not all Muslims are like these people who did this on 9/11,
True.
right?
True.
Why do you paint police with the same broad brush?
I don't.
Why do you do that?
I don't. I don't.
Well, let me ask you this. In Philadelphia, a guy shot 6 cops yesterday, or
Yes.
the day before. They're having a protest now because they want him released because they think he's such a great guy. And people on your side are going to be the ones out there protesting to have this turd released.
Who is?
Not people on my
When
side.
did that happen? About this guy being a nice guy? I didn't see that story.
It was on the news. Look it up, Egberto.
Did you see it
They're
on
having
Fox
a
News?
protest, a rally, because they think this guy's a great guy, like Muhammad, the other guy who shot Officer Faulkner in Philadelphia in the 70s.
Oh,
They
you're
want
not. You're
him,
not
you
talking
know,
about the shootout
nuts.
yesterday. You're talking about a shootout long time ago.
No, I'm talking about the one yesterday.
Oh, come on now.
There's going to be 200 to 300 people protesting because they think this guy's a great guy and they want him released.
Really? Well,
And those people vote for Democrats.
okay, stop it.
They
Stop
don't
it.
vote
That's
for
not true.
Republicans.
Whoa. That's not true. That is not true. That is not true. That is a portrayal that
That's
many would
true.
like to do. That is not true. You won't see me come out in support of that guy that shot 6 officers. You won't see me come out in support of the guy in Dallas who killed 4 or 5 officers, if I recall correctly. You don't see me doing those things. But by the same token, you won't see me defending police officers who've been murdering black men and Latino men for a very long time. And there are very many of those. And by the way, those officers that I'm calling out for killing black and Latino men are not all white. There are black officers doing that as well. So my thing isn't about race and color. My thing is about the police system itself have gradation of value to life. And if you notice, if you notice the guy who shot 20-something people in El Paso, he was taken into custody humanely. Most of the time, folks with a different hue are just gunned down. And I think unless you can come out to me someday and say, Egberto, you are right that police officers tend to treat different people differently. When I hear that out of your voice, you would have earned 100,000 points in respect with me.
I'm never going to say that.
And
I'll
that's
tell
my
you why.
point. I understand that because again, that tells me about.
Because
let me tell you what it tells me, Paul. It doesn't tell me that you're a bad person. It tells me that you're an empathetic person. That you cannot listen to what an educated person, somebody that is black, somebody that is Latino, somebody that has gone through the experiences before, somebody who has recounted that experience, and because you haven't seen it in your eyes. It doesn't happen in your eyes. When there are thousands of us who have encountered this difference in behavior, and you're telling us, oh, it's in your imagination, that tells me something more about you than anything else. Go ahead, sir.
Well, when you're taking someone into custody and they resist and give you a hard time, that's when things bad happen.
Sir?
It has nothing
Sir,
to do.
sir, we have video.
It has
We
nothing
have
to do- Can I-
Philando Castile. Philando Castile was simply. They said to Philando Castile, "Please go ahead and get your license. Do you have a gun? Yes, I have a gun. I have a license." They said, and the good thing about it is we have this one on video. And the funny thing about it is,
Listen.
not even video can save a person shot by the cops. Not even the video.
That police officer should have been prosecuted and charged and should be in jail.
I know.
I saw that whole thing.
That's my point.
So I don't know what you're saying.
What I'm saying is the officer was not charged, the officer was not put in jail, and when I talk about it, people say, well, if you simply don't resist, you don't get killed. And I'm telling you, we have video of several black men and Latino men being arrested and either got shot anyway, being not resisting and still getting shot or still getting maimed. So,
Well, let me ask you this. Just yesterday, I think it was Kamala Harris and Elizabeth Warren
yes,
started talking about the murder of Mike Brown in Ferguson.
he was murdered.
He was not murdered.
I know what the report said. I know what the report said. Okay, I know what the report said.
Well, let me ask
I went out to Ferguson.
Egberto.
Yes, sir.
Egberto,
Yes.
that was investigated like 3 times
Yes.
by Obama's Justice Department, and they found that it was not murder.
Sir,
How do you explain that?
let me tell you
Obama
something
and
about
Holder,
these.
Their Justice Department.
No. First, there are two
Their
different.
Justice Department.
There are two different tests. Okay, one is testing was your civil rights violated. That is what the federal government can do. The federal government can't talk about murder or otherwise. They can talk about whether your civil rights were taken away, and that's how they normally get a person on a second trial. The state version, there's nobody who should believe the state version whatsoever. People know what they saw. Okay. And the thing about it is the only reason that and again, I went to Ferguson myself. And I spoke to several people who actually saw the incident. Okay? And I'm not going to take the word of any police officer over the word of any paid informant over what the average good person saw. I'm not.
Well, what about the physical evidence?
What's that?
And witnesses that saw something different. The physical evidence and the witnesses that saw something different.
Look, any young kid who is walking out of a store with no gun, even if he had a robbery or whatever, if he took some cigarettes or whatever he took, and he ends up dead, there is something wrong. Okay?
What's wrong is, let me tell you what's wrong. When a police officer approaches you and you, before he even gets out of his car, reach into his car and start fighting him and punching him, and you try and grab his gun, that's wrong.
That didn't happen.
Are you denying that happened?
Yes, I'm denying that
Oh,
happened.
you're full of baloney.
Okay.
Oh, my God.
That's fine. It's a matter of, the thing about it is this. We have proven time after time after time that the police would put something in a report, and when you look at what happened, it is diametrically opposed to what they put. So and these are things. For you to sit down there and blindly believe police reports, if you're in my shoe, you would rarely ever believe a police report. I'm sorry, that's just
Listen,
how it is.
The police officers, they lie in reports. I know it happens.
Most times
But it's
they
a
lie
very
in the
small-
record, and this one I'm saying.
Most
Most
times. See, here you go.
officers
Here you go.
lie on the record because they want to
you're
make an
paint-
airtight case.
You're painting most police
Yes,
officers
I am.
in this
Because
bad light.
and you know why? You know why else I'm painting that way? Because I have members of my family that are cops, and that have actually, and not only members of my family that are cops, but others who specifically said this is what goes on behind the scenes. And these are people that I have more faith in than these investigators you're talking about.
Well, I want you to bring them on your show
I couldn't.
and expose it.
I can't.
It's the only right thing to do because I think that's baloney.
Okay. Again,
I'm challenging you to bring them on your show.
Okay, let me tell you, we're at 3:59, Paul. I always enjoy speaking to you, and I think that people that we can have different opinions and that we can still hold a conversation civilly is one of the things that I hope to show when I talk to folks like you on my show, like I advertised today on my page. We want to entertain all points of view and bring everybody here and let all of you know that everybody here has a voice. And I hope that you feel like you got your voice out here as you called in.
I do. I agree, too. Thank you.
You have a wonderful day, sir.
You too.
Okay, folks, we are at the end of the show today, and Paul wanted to challenge on a few things, and that's what we do. I mean, everybody has an opportunity to speak on my show. Absolutely so, folks. Please do remember this is a show that needs your support. So please remember to go to patreon.com/politicsdoneright. Please subscribe to the show. We need to have hundreds of small subscribers to stay alive so that we can continue to report accurately. Now, I notice I said report accurately and truthfully. I think Paul just attempted to challenge whether some of what I say is accurate. There are certain things that are not fact-based, and when they're not the case, I actually put those words on it. Like I just did with the report. Do I believe what the report said? I do not believe what the report says, and I believe this is what happens. I didn't say that the police did that or the police did that. I said I believe based on my experience. That is what I believe. Now, when I have specific facts, of course, I lay it out as facts as well. I wish Paul and everybody else did that. In other words, there are certain things that are just opinion. And what I just said about many of the officers, that's just opinion. Because I'm not sitting down there watching them do it. Now, what's not opinion was what happened with Philando Castile. What's not opinion was what happened with the guy with the cigarettes that they choked to death. Those are not opinions. The video is there. Now, people had different interpretations of that videos. I don't see how, but they did. So that is where we're at. So conservatives, liberals, progressives, anarchists, I want you to know this is your show. Because I think as a country, one of the things we have to do, just like Paul and I, one of these days I think I'm going to convince Paul on a few things. But we have to communicate respectfully. We have to communicate civilly. And that is how we are going to get things done. Again, please go to patreon.com/politicsdoneright and subscribe to our show. You get, as I see it, Class Warfare, the only resort to right-wing doom. You also get, I'm slow on this book, How to Make America Utopia. And likewise, in my book, the other book, Lose Weight and Be Fit Now. I told you guys that whole story every time. Please also consider going to our store at store.politicsdoneright.com. We have the t-shirts out there. We have this one called A Woman Has Already Won the U.S. Presidency and One Will Win Again. And we have, if you go to our store, you have a whole lot of other t-shirts that are worth having. That is how we intend to fund what we're doing here. There was a time that we could do it all on advertising. We can't anymore. In fact, advertising is all but gone. In fact, that's just the truth. It's all but gone. So now we depend on subscriptions. We depend on people buying the things like this, including our good old cup. And so subscription cups, t-shirts, or books. Do that to help fund what we're doing. You have a wonderful day. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you know how I end this baby. It goes like this. I am what? Out!
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.
1, 2, 3.